Okay, brassica cage, making it up as we go along, part two. I got some scaffolding netting that you can see here online off of eBay. There's no rhyme or reason to how I've done this, so let's just have a quick look. I'm using cable ties here and there to secure it. The great thing about scaffolding netting is that it comes with eyelets already made out, so you can use the eyelets to tie everything together. And I've also used old garden wire here and there just to secure it. I've got one end pretty much made and tacked down. The general rule is that if it's flapping around or I see something, I'm just going to use a bit of garden wire just to secure it, really. It's quite windy at the moment. I'm using 4 pieces of netting for this, one for each side basically, and it's 2 meters, so it can go from the top to the bottom from the middle, if that makes sense, covering most of it. Scaffolding netting is also actually quite stretchy, so you get a little bit more usage out of it, and it can tighten up quite well. So yeah, I'd recommend using this if you can. And now I've got this archway to cover. I've never covered an archway before, and so if I'm doing anything wrong, please do leave a message in the comments. I am kind of just making it up as I go along, and it's a, no pun intended, but it is a huge learning curve. So let's see how I get on. I have measured up very quickly, and the actual curvature, even though the base is about 215, the actual curvature is 340 centimeters, so you have to take the curvature into account. I know that much. So I'll probably have 2 bits that overlap, because each width of each piece is 2 meters, so they'll probably overlap here and probably overlap here roughly, which means I'll need a length, 2 pieces that are 90 plus 140 plus 90. So that's the length I reckon I'll need. I always recommend having a little bit extra, say 20 centimeters extra, just in case you make a mistake, and you can always just roll it up at the end. That's one bit cut. It looks a bit excessive, but I think it should be okay. Let's see if we can get it onto the frame. Say this is easier said than done. I need to think of a way to secure it in the middle there. It looks like I've got the length okay. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to secure it at the base and then pull it over and see how far it will stretch across the top. Okay, slight change of plan. I've got this old trampoline and I'm going to see if I can secure that in the middle with a bit of battening that I've got. To try and make an extra archway. This hopefully sturdy it up, but I'll have something to cable tie the netting to in the middle. So I will take the netting off and I shall see if I can make an extra arch in the middle. Okay, so I've made an extra arch. I haven't filmed this bit because it has been a bit of trial and error, but I'll show you what I've done. I've used this piece of trampoline section to make the inner arch, and really that's for the benefit of the netting, so that's got something to strap onto. The problem you'll have with the trampoline is that the curvature will keep going, so you'll end up with, if you don't have a complete set, you'll end up with a massive arch that's way too big probably for what you need. So at some point you need to straighten off that curvature. So the 2 places you can do that are obviously in the ground, as you can see there, but then you'll need to straighten it off in the middle. So I've just got a bit of wood there to straighten that off roughly in the middle. It doesn't have to be exact, and I've used a couple of pegs just to sturdy that up. You can't see it, but inside of here I've buried some pegs, and the trampoline actually sits on a couple of pegs, so that adds a little bit of makes it a bit more rigid. It doesn't go straight to the top, so I can't connect it here that well. There's a gap, but that's why I've put in the pegs inside as well as outside, and cable tied everything together. So that should be straight enough, and that should be a bit more rigid. So yeah, let's try again with the netting. Okay, that's one half done, and I have had to actually cut off the excess. I think it's just the nature of the beast that you get a bit of excess. I put in some pegs down at the bottom there, just to have something to tie to as well, and to make it a little bit more rigid. I'll probably do it the same the other end. And there we have the second half done. It was a lot easier with that middle archway put in. That really did pay dividends. I accidentally on purpose cut this too short, so I've actually got two pieces here. It doesn't really matter, and it's just held together with a bit of garden wire this side, so I can just lift up the top when I need to. Took me a few hours, but got there in the end. Scaffolding netting is really, really good, and everything was pulled together. I just got to remember for next year which parts go with what, and it'll be a lot quicker process. There we have it. That's how you build a brassica cage out of nothing. Or, well, not nothing, some bits and bobs that you got lying around.